And so I've seen many cases and read many stories of, staff, their IT systems at the office are on par and up to date and working fine, but their home computer was compromised. They've gone home working from home, particularly during COVID, and their home computer has been the cause of a cyber breach within their network for the corporate side of things. So,
welcome to the business behind your business. Conversations to help your business grow and thrive. Hi, I'm Paul Sweeney, founder of UNITECH Solutions, chartered accountants and certified business advisors, hosting the business behind your business. Welcome back. Luke Iacovelli is joining me again. We're just going to continue our series looking at cybersecurity for small and medium businesses, and we had a pretty general discussion about what actually cybersecurity is and some of the risks and how it can affect your business. But I think today we're going to delve into some of the practical steps that you can take to, I won't say eliminate, but reduce your exposure to cybersecurity. So, Luke, welcome back.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Great. It's good to have you back because I'm learning a lot through this process of talking to you about cybersecurity.
I'm sure you.
I think really a lot of it is about educating people what it is and what you need to be doing, because if you're not aware of it, you're not going to do anything and you're really exposing yourself. So I like to call that the ostrich approach, and it's not really effective where you bury your head in the sand and just hope that it all goes away. So, but we talked about educating your employees and your contractors as well. So how important is that as part of your cybersecurity policy or process?
Absolutely. Look, I'd have to say that staff awareness and staff education is probably number one. And the reason for that is, as I've mentioned before, is that, you're only as good as your weakest link, and the weakest link is often the end user at the other end. So, of the many cyber attack stories that we've read about and seen across the industry and through Channel, they all seem to stem from an end user or a group of users or some sort of compromise at a user level. So one of the first things that we do is we talk to clients about, education and awareness of what cyber attacks are, what cybersecurity is, and probably more importantly is looking at each individual unit or department within a business and what is the cyber risk for them. Because they might all be different. They might all be the same, but most of the time you'll find that they actually are all different. So it's a conversation that's not just for IT, it's for the entire business from the top management right down. And it's important to have that conversation, find out from the staff who are, the ones that are interacting daily with the business, what they believe the risks are and where they think those risks would be coming from. And so once you start to understand that and you're able to identify some of those and see where there's some loopholes, you can then look at introducing, some cybersecurity policies and procedures in place to help overcome that. And that's an important document to have. That's an important piece of business administration that sets the benchmark for, your cybersecurity plans. And there are other documents that feed into that, such as backup and other bits and pieces. But, having those policies in place and understanding those risks is a vital first step.
Mm-hmm. And so with some of the personal side of it that we've talked about, either I think in our most recent episode or maybe even in earlier discussions, is just the understanding of who you're dealing with, who you are, your supplier. So when you get an email from somebody that looks like a supplier but it doesn't quite look right, then you know what to do. And I look at one of the common ones that I've seen quite a bit with small and medium businesses is not separating the business IT from the personal and using business IT logins to access personal things like Netflix and other subscriptions there. So is that a common thing?
Yeah, look, the concept of BYOD or bring your own device is becoming more and more, a part of the working environment. And in many cases, if a user doesn't have a laptop, a company-issued laptop, and they're working from home, they will most likely use their home computer. Now, their home computer is not part of the corporate network, so it does not have the same levels of protection. It doesn't have the antivirus on there. It's not being monitored or managed. It probably doesn't have the latest updates or patches. So you're using your own equipment to access your corporate network. And so it becomes a very grey area in the sense of it's your personal computer, and so the company can't access it or make changes to it. But at the same time, you're using that personal computer to access your company information, emails, files, etc., which the company has a responsibility to maintain. It starts to become a little grey and a little, iffy around that space, because if your personal computer is compromised and you've gone in and accessed, your company emails or files through logging into the cloud, your computer could potentially be a risk for that. And so I've seen many cases and read many stories of, staff, their IT systems at the office are on par and up to date and working fine, but their home computer was compromised. They've gone home working from home, particularly during COVID, and their home computer has been the cause of a cyber breach within their network for the corporate side of things. So, there are ways to mitigate that, but it is something that people need to be aware of and not realizing that, I'm using my own device. It's not protected by the company. So is my computer up to date? Is my computer got antivirus on it? If it's a company-issued computer, then you should be okay. But, same with your mobile phone and your tablet, if it's company-issued or not. So that whole BYOD is a very, very, very important thing to understand, because, you can say, but I've got, all these security measures in place. Yes, but you're accessing it from a personal computer. So it's important to be aware of that as well.
So we talked about education. So what other steps should you put in place when you're creating your IT or your cybersecurity policy?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, obviously the human being or the user is quite often the weakest link, and 9 times out of 10 they will cause a cyber attack by clicking on an email. So staff awareness and staff training is very good. And so the question is often asked, well, how do I train staff? There are a number of training and awareness campaigns that can be used to educate your staff around cybersecurity. So what they basically are is you create a mock-up fake phishing email. It might be, a free JB Hi-Fi voucher. It might be an Australia Post one. So these are custom templates that are then, through a campaign, distributed to all of your staff, all of their emails, usually in batches so it doesn't look suspicious, over a period of time, possibly 1 to 2 months. And the idea behind that is the emails are obviously, they're fake, they're not real phishing emails, but they're designed to collect information to be able to report back to senior management or IT or whoever to say, look, we sent 100 emails out over this period of time and we received, 20, 30, 50, 90% clicked. Therefore, there is some training and user awareness that needs to be identified. So very useful tools to be able to identify what your staff is thinking. If you're getting reports back that show 90% of people were clicking on those links, then there is obviously some serious discussions that need to be had around user awareness, and that might trigger that conversation. The other option is with some of those awareness campaigns, you can actually, when the person clicks on the email, immediately stop them from what they're doing and go, listen, you've just clicked on a fake email that was potentially a risk. Here's a 5-minute video or some steps for you to, so you can actually do the training right there on the spot. And once again, it collects that information and provides some valuable insight to the business. So very, very simple and reasonably cost-effective ways to give business owners an idea of what's actually happening, but more importantly, what their staff are thinking. If you're getting high numbers, then you really need to be looking at some of that staff awareness and training. And that goes towards, introducing the policy as well.
Mm. And so just on that, like a lot of employees will access their personal email, like through a Google or Yahoo or what Hotmail account while they're at work using a business provided laptop or workstation.
Yep.
Is that also a risk? Should there be a policy about that?
There is a risk. Some businesses are different. We see a lot of businesses that lock out that sort of stuff. So they say, look, through their firewall, through their web content programs, they turn around and say, well, look, no one is allowed to access any personal stuff such as Facebook, etc., during working hours. That is at the company's discretion, of course. Others are a bit more laxed with that rule, and so they say, look, that's fine. And so at which point then it comes down to making sure that they've got the right filtering systems in place, that they've got the firewalls are up to date with the necessary protection software to be able to identify if there's any leaks in the website, if there's any pop-ups. Most of these systems are also MFA, two-factor authentication enabled. So you log in on your work computer to your Gmail account to view your personal emails. A lot of staff will probably use their own personal phone for that as well. So it just depends on how, I guess, strict, for better words, that the business wants to be with regards to providing staff with that sort of access to their personal stuff. And if they do provide it, making sure that they've got those steps in place, those systems and tools and filtering agents to be able to protect the network as much as possible.
Mm. And so you mentioned there levels of protection and policies about software updates and firewalls. So I guess that leads into the next part of that series of steps you need to take to protect your business. So what is a firewall, and does every business have one?
Yeah, absolutely. No, not every business has one. So what the firewall is, it's essentially your gateway tool, your physical appliance that provides your network's link to the outside world. So quite often everyone has an internet connection that usually goes into a modem or into a firewall. Now, most people for their home will just have a modem and they can access the network wirelessly. For businesses, most of them should have, or at least have, some sort of firewall router, which is a more sophisticated appliance that provides like a brick wall or a gate that allows traffic in and out. That can be controlled, it can be managed, it can be monitored, it can be filtered. And so you're either your own internal IT or your IT supplier or MSP provider will manage that for you and open up the ports that need to be opened up. Most devices, when you buy them from the shop, they come defaulted with, all the ports open and access to the world, and the gateway is not really very good. And so you need to have someone that knows what they're doing to be able to lock those ports down and say, look, these are the certain ports that need to be closed. We will open up this port for this particular type of traffic. We'll open this port for that type of traffic. So you've got a much more tighter control of who's accessing stuff in and out, data coming in and out, and also access to the internet and obviously the web. So that's your first step, and firewall routers can vary from a few $100s up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Generally a good business grade type firewall with a reasonable amount of web content filtering and protection, probably anywhere between $750 and say $1,500 mark for small to medium businesses. That would provide an adequate level of protection in that space. But that's just at the starting point. Then as you start to work your way further into the network, start to look at things like antivirus software, anti-spam protection, so protecting all of your devices, including mobile phones and tablets, because everyone's now accessing exactly what they access on their computer from their phones these days. So making businesses aware of protecting your mobile devices is also equally important, as well as your computer hardware and things like that. And then looking at things like, simple things like password policies. There are hundreds of people out there that are probably using the same password that they used 10 years ago. Hopefully not password one, but, they've never changed their password. So if you've had a breach at some point, or your email has been compromised throughout your time there, changing your password regularly is very, very important. We highly recommend at least 90 days password change policy, but you can even be as strict as 30 days, so 30, 60, or 90-day password reset policies. So the system forces you to change your password. In doing so, it also says to you, well, look, the password needs to be a complex password, so 8 characters or more, capital letters, symbols or characters, and obviously alphanumeric as well, and cannot be the same one as your last 3 or 4 or 5 passwords as well. So really making sure that that is maintained right across the organization, not just a couple of people, but everybody. Because the common frustration is, I've got to change the password every 3 months. I've got to change it on my phone and everything. Yes, you do, but that's the point. So that, you've got, it's a different password all the time. So a really, really important one that quite often gets overlooked quite substantially.
And look, often with your web-based applications, they give you an option to remember your password. What's your take on that?
It's a mixed. So my personal take is I don't do that. Okay, I do not save passwords or auto save them in my browsers or any of my mobile devices. That's a personal preferencing that I go by, simply because you just don't know these days. And while it is convenient and easy to have it autofill and auto save, I don't do it because I'm in the industry and I see the risks that exist, and I see what's out there, and I see I've seen the attacks that can happen. And actually, a lot of firewall vendors and antivirus protection vendors will actually say to you not to do that as well. And use some sort of third-party password key or password lock or password management system, which you can get. There's many of them that exist that will store all the passwords for you, and most of them actually don't even tell you what the password is. You just have one master login, and then all your other passwords are managed centrally. So it's like a password vault or password sort of security system. But look, saving them locally, I don't recommend it. But I can understand that there are some people out there that have so many passwords to remember for different accounts and systems that they just auto save them into Chrome or Firefox or wherever for the convenience. But again, it's a personal thing and one that just depends on your personal preference, but not recommended by me.
Mm-hmm. And that's good to know, because I know it's very easy for people to just click on, I'm so sick of typing in this password.
Correct.
Yeah. So we've talked about the firewall coming in and the passwords and the antivirus policies, but how important is it to keep software updated?
Look, as frustrating as it sometimes is, particularly with Windows, updating your software is very, very important. So updating the software is not just a painful and difficult process. The reason why there is software updates is because the systems are constantly receiving new threats, and there are new ways to do things. Not only do they just fix little bugs and little issues in the programs, but they actually also, there is a component of security that gets updated. So, for example, when you're updating your Apple iPhone to the latest version of software, it's fixing bugs that have been identified. So as more and more people use the applications, more and more bugs are identified. Nothing's perfect in the software game, as we would all know. So they're constantly fixing bugs, and they're also improving security. So it's very, very important that you are up to date with your maintenance and your support on your applications, your operating systems, right across the platforms that you use. But also, one thing that quite often gets overlooked is the updates to your Trend Micro. When you buy a product, you buy it, quite often on a 12 months or whatever it might be, a subscription plan. After 12 months, the product continues to work. It doesn't stop working, but it stops releasing and stops receiving updates. So when it stops getting updates, it's no longer getting the latest things from the Trend Micro network. And all the Trend Micro, for example, all the Trend Micro servers talk to each other. They all are constantly communicating. So if that support stops, the communication to the other networks stop. And so you're not receiving the latest updates. So if in 2 days after your product has expired, there is a new threat that's been released and the Trend Micro have updated their systems, you won't get those. So one of the things that we do at UNITECH is we are very, very, very on top of our clients' license renewals and maintenance renewals for their systems. Those that are moved onto a monthly billing arrangement receive those updates as part of their ongoing subscription. Those that are on-premise or perpetual type of licenses, we are constantly renewing them yearly or recommending that they renew them for that simple reason is that they will get the latest updates and are as up to date as they can in identifying those new threats.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the advantages of using somebody like UNITECH for managed services or managed IT services is that somebody else is actually taking care of that for you and keeping an eye on what the new patches are, what needs to be installed, whether you've got licenses renewing. Because as an owner of a business, you don't necessarily, or actually, you don't have time to look after that unless that's your actual business. You don't have time to manage it. So this is a key reason why any business should be using an outsourced IT for their management.
Absolutely,
practice.
Yeah, so, as you rightly pointed out, most business owners haven't got the time, and if they're paying for someone to do it, then it's their responsibility. So, as an example, obviously, paying an MSP such as UNITECH to do that sort of support, it is our job to make sure that it's being done. It's also our job to, not all the updates that are released, for example, by Windows are great. Sometimes they do break things. Sometimes they are known to be issues with those updates. So being in the industry, we're exposed to that. So we know which ones aren't quite right. And so in many cases, we sometimes have to roll the update back or wait until there is a second release to that update before it's pushed out to our clients. So it's just managing that as well. And I guess a question for the listeners out there is, if your IT provider is not coming to you and telling you that you need to, or not quoting you or advising you of software maintenance renewals for some of your systems or licenses, or you're not on some sort of monthly billing for them, you need to be asking those questions to them and saying, well, listen, are any of my licenses expired? Is my firewall license up to date? Do I have a license on the firewall? Is my Trend Micro virus protection up to date? What is the status with that? Because quite often you'd be surprised how many people out there are running out-of-date versions. The product's working, and so they believe that it's up to date, but it's actually might be 2, 3, 4, even 10 versions behind the very latest that's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, there's a lot to be aware of, a lot to keep on top of, and look, this is an area particularly where you do need to use somebody that is an expert in that field and dedicated to looking after your IT for you. So, Luke, how do our listeners get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Look, they can visit our website, unitech.com.au. There's a lot of information there about UNITECH and what we do. There's also our contact details and a contact us form to fill out. Alternatively, they can give us a call on 1300 IT help. So that should be nice and easy to remember. And they can get in touch with one of our consultants who can sort of have a bit of an introductory chat with them as well. We have a team of staff here across, sales and service and support for the business. And we've been around for 31 years. So we've got a lot of experience in the IT game and have been doing this for a very long time. So right across a lot of the developments that exist out there and have a team of experienced staff across many different levels of IT.
Fantastic. That's great. So thanks, Luke, for sharing that with us today. It's been fantastic to hear and I think eye-opening for a lot of people to know some of the areas of their business that they may not be really on top of. So thanks for sharing that. As we mentioned, we're continuing our series looking at cybersecurity and small business, and we're going to have you back on the podcast as well. But we're going to bring in Dave Ferris from Davil Corp Insurance Brokers, and we're going to talk about managing the IT exposure or the cybersecurity exposure and what you can do from an insurance and prevention point of view as well. So that should be a great discussion as well. So thanks again, Luke.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for listening. Do you have a question you'd like our team of experts to answer? If you do, send your question to podcast@thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. To hear more from The Business Behind Your Business, don't forget to subscribe using your favourite podcast player. Or you can visit the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website.